읽는 고양이 제니예요. 오늘은 해리포터 3권 챕터 2 어제 읽던 거 마저 읽어보도록 할게요. 냐옹! First, Uncle Vernon hurried and forgot their bargain. In any case, he changed the subject abruptly. Heard the news is a foreign emerge? What about their escaped prisoner, eh? As Aunt Marge started to make herself at home, Harry caught himself thinking almost longingly of life at number 4 without her. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia usually encouraged Harry to stay out of their way, which Harry was only too happy to do. Aunt Marge, on the other hand, wanted Harry under her eyes at all times, so that she could boom out her suggestions he could improvement. She delighted to pairing Harry with Dudley, and took huge pleasure in buying Dudley expensive presents while glaring at Harry, as though daring him to ask why he had gotten presents too. She also kept throwing out dark hints about what made Harry such an unsatisfactory person. "You mustn't blame yourself for the way you boys turned out, Barnum," Silver longed over the third day. "And there's something rotten on the inside. There's nothing anyone can do about it." Harry tried to concentrate on his food, but his hands shook and his face was starting to burn in anger. "Remember the form," he told himself. "Think about Hogsmeade. Don't say anything. Don't you rise." Aunt Marge reached her glasses rhyme. "It's one of the basic rules of breeding," she said. "You should earn your time with dogs. If there's something wrong with the bitch, there'll be something wrong with the pup." At that moment, the wine glass Aunt Marge was holding exploded in her hand. Shouts of blast flew in every direction, and Aunt Marge spluttered and blinked, her great ruddy face dripping. "Marge!" squealed Aunt Petunia. "Marge, are you right?" "Not to worry," grunted Aunt Marge, mopping her face with her napkin. "What I've squeezed it too hard. Did the same thing at Colonel Fobster's the other day. No need to fuss, Petunia. I have a very firm grip." But Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon was both looking at Harry suspiciously, so they decided he'd better skip pudding and escape from the table as soon as he could. Outside in the hall, he leaned against the wall, breathing deeply. It had been a long time since he'd lost control and made something explode. He couldn't afford to let it happen again. Hogsmeade almost warming to anything stick. He can't carry on like that. He'd be in trouble with the Ministry of Magic. Harry was still an underage wizard, and he was forbidden by wizard law to do magic outside school. His record wasn't exactly clean either. Only last summer, he got an official warning which has stated quite clearly that if the Ministry got wind of any more magic in Privet Drive, Harry would face expulsion from Hogwarts. He heard the Dursleys leaving the table and hurried upstairs out of the way. Harry got through the next 3 days by forcing himself to think about his handbook of do-it-yourself broom care whenever Aunt Marge started on him. His worked quite well, though it seemed to give him a glazed look, because Aunt Marge started voicing an opinion that he was mentally subnormal. At long last, final evening of Marge's stay arrived. Aunt Petunia cooked a fancy dinner, and Uncle Vernon uncorked several bottles of wine. All the way through soup in the summer, and a single mention at Harry's forts. During the lemon bread pie, Uncle Vernon bored them all with a long talk about Grunnings, his drill-making company. Then Aunt Petunia made coffee, and Uncle Vernon brought out the bottle of brandy. "Can I tempt you, Marge?" Aunt Marge had already had rather a lot of wine. Her huge face was very red. "You're just a small one then," she chuckled. "A bit more than that, a bit more. That's boy." Dudley was eating his fourth slice of pie. Aunt Petunia was sipping coffee with her little fingers sticking out. Harry really wanted to disappear in this bedroom, but he met Uncle Vernon's angry little eyes and knew he would have to sit it down. "Ah," said Aunt Marge, smacking her lips and putting the empty brandy glass back down. "Excellent enough, Petunia. It's normally just a flyer for me in the evening with Trill Dormitory over there." "Ah," she burped richly and patted her red tweed stomach. "But me? But I don't see a healthy-sized boy," she went on, winkling at Dudley. "You'll be a couple-sized toddlers like your father. Yes, you're about to spout more brandy, Vernon. Now this one here." She jerked her head at Harry, who felt his stomach clenched. "The handbook," he thought quickly. "This one got a mean, runty look about him. You get the dogs. I had Covel Copster drawn by last year, writing a little thing at 1 week, on their breath." Harry was trying to remember page 12 of his book. A charm to cure reluctant reverses. "You all goes to blood, as I was saying the other day. Bad blood will out. Now I'm saying nothing against your family, Petunia." She patted on Petunia's bony hand with her shovel-like one. "But your sister was a bad egg. So we're not the best families." Then she ran off with a whistle, and there's the result right in front of us. Harry was staring at his plate, a funny ringing in his ears. "Grasp your brooms firmly by the tail," he thought, but he couldn't remember what came next. Aunt Marge's voice seemed to be boring into him like one of Uncle Vernon's drill. "This Potter!" said Aunt Marge loudly, seizing the brandy bottle and splashing more into her glasses over the tablecloth. "You never told me what it did." Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia were looking extremely tensed. Dudley had even looked up from his pie to game with his parents. "He didn't work," said Uncle Vernon with half a glance at Harry. "Unemployed." "As I expected," said Aunt Marge, taking a huge swig of brandy and wiping her chin on her sleeve. "No account of good for nothing. Lazy scrudger who—" "He was not," said Harry suddenly. The table went very quiet. Harry was shaking all over. He had never felt so angry in his entire life. "More brandy!" yelled Uncle Vernon, who had gone very white. He emptied the bottle into Aunt Marge's glass. "You boy!" he snarled at Harry. "Go to bed! Go on!" "No, Vernon," hiccupped Aunt Marge, holding up a hand, her tiny bloodshot eyes fixed on Harry. "Go on, boy, go on. Proud of your parents, are you? They go and get themselves killed in a car crash. Drunk, I expect." "They didn't die in a car crash," said Harry, who found himself on his feet. "They died in a car crash, you nasty little liar, and left you to be a burden on their decent, hard-working relatives," screamed Aunt Marge, swelling his fury. "You are an insolent, ungrateful little thing." But Aunt Marge suddenly stopped speaking. For a moment it looked as though words had failed her. She seemed to be swelling with inexpressible anger. Yet the swelling didn't stop. Her great red face started to expand. Her tiny eyes bulged, and her mouth stretched too tightly for speech. Next second, several buttons burst from her tweed jacket pinged up the walls. She was inflating like a monstrous balloon, her stomach bursting free of her twig wristband, each of her fingers blowing up like a salami. "Marge!" yelled Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia together, as Aunt Marge's whole body began to rise up on her chair towards the ceiling. She was entirely around now, like a lost big boy with sticky eyes, but her hands and feet stuck out weirdly as she drifted up into the air, making up-afflicted potting noises. Ripper came spitting into the room, barking madly. "No!" Uncle Vernon seized one of Marge's feet and tried to pull her down again, but it was almost lifted from the floor himself. Next second, Ripper had leapt forward and sunk his teeth into Uncle Vernon's leg. Harry tore from the dining room before anyone could stop him, heading for the cupboard under the stairs. The cupboard door burst magically open as he reached it. In seconds, he had heaved his trunks to the front door. He sprinted upstairs, threw himself under the bed, reached up the loose forward, and grabbed the pillowcase full of his books and worthy presents. He wriggled out, seized Hedwig's empty cage, and dashed back downstairs to his trunk, just as Uncle Vernon burst out of the dining room, his trouser leg in bloody tatters. "Come back in here," he bellowed. "Come back and put her right." But a reckless rage had come over Harry. He kicked his trunk open, pulled out his wand, and pointed at it Uncle Vernon. "She deserved it," Harry said, breathing very fast. "She deserved what she got. You keep away from me." He thimbled arriving with the kitchen door. "I'm going," Harry said. "I have had enough." And next moment, he was out in the dark, quiet street, heaving his heavy trunk behind him, Hedwig's cage under his arm. 재미있게 들으셨다면 구독과 좋아요 꾹꾹 눌러주시고 다음 영상에서 만나요. 안녕!